Okay, welcome back, guys. In the last part, I talked about 4 different verses that refer to a trumpet and that seem to be referring to the rapture. And they all are clearly talking about an end-time event. They all 4 mention a trumpet. Now, the trumpet in 1 Corinthians 52, and again, that verse says, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound. And I was telling you all in part 1 how it reminded me of the same trumpet in Revelation 11, Revelation 11:15, and it says, "And the 7th angel sounded." Okay, and then after that trumpet was sounded, it says, "The time of the dead," he says, "and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged." Now, when it talks about them being judged, you're like, okay, this is right after the last trumpet, right? The 7th trumpet. Why is it talking about people being judged? It's talking about the time of the dead that they should be judged. So let's go back to 1 Thessalonians 4:16. That talks about dead people too. Okay, this is another of those trumpet rapture verses. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Let's start at verse 15 this time. Let's start at verse 14. 1 Thessalonians 4:14. "For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds." And when it says with them, I'm thinking that's referring to the Lord and the dead people. Okay, so it says, "Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord." And that talks about dead people. It talks about the dead in Christ shall rise first. Let's see what Revelation 11:15 said again. It says, "And the 7th angel sounded," and then go down to verse 18, and it says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great." So it seems that there's a little judgment before Judgment Day. You know, we hear about the judgment. Let me see. We're trying to see where the Judgment Day is at. Okay, Judgment Day, I believe it's in Revelation 20. Yes, in Revelation 20. Let me read you all a little bit about Judgment Day. Revelation, the great judgment, the big Judgment Day. Revelation 20:11. "And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire, which this is the second death. And whosoever," this is verse 15, "and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." So there seem to be 2 different judgments, because we hear about the judgment in Revelation 20. This is the one we're most familiar with, is the one in Revelation 20, but we don't really look at this other one in Revelation 11, verse 18. So it says the time of the dead that they should be judged. So is that talking about the same trumpet in 1 Thessalonians 4:16? I think that's a good question to ask ourselves. Are these referring to the same one? Now, I want to go off and talk about this one little topic for a minute for those who are pre-tribulation rapture. Where's my notebook at? The truth is that there was no pre-tribulation rapture before 1830. No one taught on pre-tribulation rapture before 1830. The year 1830. Okay. Now there's this guy, Grant R. Jeffrey. Y'all may have seen him on TBN or something. He's a Canadian Bible teacher of Bible prophecy or eschatology, which is study of the end times, and also biblical archaeology, and a leading proponent of dispensational. And if you're dispensational, you believe in a pre-tribulation, premillennialist rapture. Okay, he's been chairman of Frontier Research Publications for more than 20 years. His books have been translated. He has 25 books translated into 24 different languages. He has millions of copies. He's appears on television and radio shows, especially Christian programs. He has speaking engagements around the world. He has a master's degree and a PhD in biblical studies. And so yeah, he seemed to know a little. He also has taken postdoctoral courses in apologetics and theology at Oxford University. And I just want to just mention him briefly to you all. He's a Canadian Bible teacher. Now, this guy, he decided for 10 years, for a whole decade, he decided to look and see was there any pre-tribulational rapture teachings before 1830. Because that's the first book that he saw that talks about a pre-tribulation rapture. And 10 years is over. It's over. Now that's back when I was 15 years old. 10 years ago, he said actually over 50. He said over 10 years, over a decade of studying. And 10 years ago, I was 15 years old. That was a very long. I was probably in 10th grade then. A very long time to be studying. Imagine me studying the end times from 10th grade all the way to now. Okay, about 3 years out of college. So he studied all this time looking for a pre-tribulation teaching before 1830, and in 10 years he did not find a single one, not a single person taught pre-tribulation before 1830. And I'm going to do another video series on that topic because it's far too much to talk about in this video series here. Because this one here, I'm just trying to focus on, you know, the mid-tribulation rapture. Now there's this guy who did now there was a guy in the 8th century. Like I told you all, there was no pre-tribulation rapture teachings before the 1800s. And I believe more specifically for 1830. But there was one person, and this is in the, I think, the 4th century. I can't read my own handwriting. Okay, and I think it's the 4th century, either 4th, I can't read my own handwriting. This is either the 4th or the 8th century. And he believed in he actually believed in a mid-tribulation rapture. So let me look it up really quick. I want to make sure I have the right name. I want to make sure I have the right name. But anyways, this guy, okay, actually I think it might have been 7th. It might have been the 7th century. Okay. Give me a few seconds. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, at first I said the 1st or 8th century. It's actually, I believe, the 7th century. So Grant R. Jeffrey, after over 10 years of looking for pre-tribulation rapture teaching before the 1800s, he found one person who wasn't post-trib, I guess, post-tribulational, and his name was Pseudo Ephraim, which you know pseudo means fake or false, but his name is Pseudo Ephraim, and this was in the 7th century. And he believed in a mid-tribulation rapture. No one believed in pre. It was only one person who wasn't post, and he believed in a mid-tribulation rapture. He also believed in a 7-year tribulation period, and he believed that, you know, the first half was really bad, the second half was really, 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 really bad. And he believed that God would come rapture up His church, the true church. Not people who just go to church on Sundays. I'm talking about like the real body, God's body on the earth, His real true, Christ's body on the earth. He believed that Jesus was coming for the true church in the midway point. Right after the kind of bad half, right before the really, really bad half. There's only one person. Look for part 3. Thank you.